in church. Thanks for being with us today. It's Palm Sunday. You got the memo. You got the hint. Yeah, I'm seeing that. I see that some of you have some mainline church game, because as soon as you got this palm frond, you folded it up into a cross, and that, I mean, that you must have some like former Lutherans or Catholics or the like, because it's not a particularly Assembly of God thing to do. But I like it. I like it. I like it. Palm Sunday, first day of Holy Week. Starts today, of course, with Palm Sunday, takes us through Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday, culminates in next Sunday, Resurrection Sunday. So yeah, these palm fronds commemorate that first Palm Sunday. And thanks for going along, waving them and such. I think it's meaningful. It's a nice bit of tradition. Palm Sunday. It's a day of celebration for sure, right? But that there are mixed emotions that come with this holy week. There's the celebration, of course, of hailing Jesus as King and Savior. And mixed in with that, there's the disappointment, if you will, that goes along with all of that, as we know that the acclaim of that crowd on that day didn't last, didn't endure. There's the treachery of Maundy Thursday, that night that Jesus was betrayed. And of course that is followed by Good Friday. And there's nothing all that good about that scene, right? But we who believe know that what God accomplished is certainly good. It is the best. Then that silent Saturday, and then Resurrection Sunday, Easter. That day when death is vanquished and Jesus truly conquers it all. Jesus is victorious over sin and death, and that's the great celebration that all of this Holy Week just kind of winds up in, culminates in on Easter. So yes, friends, it is a day to celebrate. So Hosanna, Hosanna. Our Bibles present to us four Gospels, right? Accounts of the life of Jesus at the beginning of our New Testaments. Four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Not John, Paul, Ringo, and whoever that other guy. No, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Each of those gospel accounts gives us a unique perspective. They're not mere duplicates of each other. It turns out that every scene that's depicted, in the complexity and the completeness of all the gospels is not depicted in each of the gospels. But the account of Palm Sunday is present in all four Gospels. It's like Easter is, of course, present in all four Gospels. Christmas is not in all four Gospels. You ever notice that? Christmas is in Matthew and Luke, but only in two of the four. But Palm Sunday is in all four. So we do the math. Palm Sunday must be twice as important as Christmas. Right? Simple math. So Merry Palm Sunday. What did you get me? That's a joke, people. Are you sticking with me? Merry Palm Sunday. That's good. Thank you so much for that, Kara. Knee slapper. All four Gospels. Palm Sunday. We're going to get into that important Palm Sunday account, but I want to jump back to, I think, a peculiar episode that immediately precedes that Palm Sunday scene. And here is how we see it presented in the Gospel of Luke. This is the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, verse 29 starts by saying, as Jesus approached Bethphage and Bethany at the hill called the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent two of his disciples, saying to them, go to the village ahead of you, and as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Steal it and bring it back to me. That's right, heist it. Go jack me a ride, Jesus said. Rip off that donkey. Well, it's not exactly what he said, but that's pretty much what he said. So how is that for a Palm Sunday sermon title, The Great Donkey Heist? The Great Donkey Heist. Yeah, I'd cry too. I mean, seriously, the disciples were here to find a specific donkey in a specific way. And it says that they were to help themselves to this donkey, which seems pretty dangerous. I'm not exactly sure of the rules, around Bethany and Bethphage that day, but I know, out here in the Wild West, frontier justice says that a horse thief gets hung. So this was a dangerous sort of situation, heisting a donkey. Yeah, like I said, this isn't exactly what Jesus said. I've taken some liberties here, but it isn't that far off. What's going on here with this great donkey heist? So let's see what the scripture actually says again. It's back to what's written in Luke 19. It said, "Go to the village ahead of you, and as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. And if anyone asks you, 'Why are you untying it?' say, 'The Lord needs it.'" And those who were sent ahead, those two went and found it just as he had told them. And as they were untying the colt, its owners asked them, "Why are you untying the colt?" And they replied, "The Lord needs it." And they brought it to Jesus, threw their cloaks on the colt, and put Jesus on it. And as he went along, people spread their cloaks on the road. The great donkey heist. Friends, there are miracles here. Miracles here. Just even in this story. Miracles here in this story. I don't know that I have a favorite miracle in the Bible. Maybe you do. But if we did have sort of a top 5 list of miracles or some sort of bracketology that went along with the miracles, I'm not sure that the donkey heist would even make the list. Because I think we favor the more spectacular and obvious miracles, both in the Bible and in our own lives. But here's the thing. It's often worth some careful inspection when we consider how God is working in us and through us and around us in our lives. Take a closer look. Because if we look carefully, we can see how the truly miraculous is routinely at work, even if the miracles aren't immediately obvious or perhaps precisely the miracle that we wanted or expected. So I want to encourage us, let's be on the lookout for miracles. Be on the lookout for miracles, because the miraculous, the way that God is active in our lives, the way that God is present in our circumstances, the miraculous builds our faith. And we ought to have our faith built up. So let's be on the lookout for miracles. So let's be on the lookout for miracles right here in this passage. I have a couple. Consider these miracles in the great donkey heist. Miracle number one is those disciples did it. They did it. This is a significant act of obedience. Now, friends, it wasn't the strangest thing that Jesus had ever told his disciples to do. Not the strangest directive ever given by Jesus, but it was kind of strange, right? And Jesus even anticipated their objection, telling them what to say should someone ask them about this heist. Obedience. See, oftentimes the best miracles that God accomplishes are a direct result of the simple obedience of his people. Miracles are often preceded or often include obedience. That's number one. Number two, there was a colt there. A donkey still with its mother. I wasn't sure what a colt was because I'm a city kid, so I looked it up. Colt means a donkey or a horse still with its mother. So there was a colt there. Did Jesus foresee it? Or did he somehow orchestrate it, miraculously or otherwise? This was more than coincidence that there was a colt there. Miracles are often just a simple matter of having precisely what we need at precisely the right time. It's a miracle of provision. So, obedience, provision. Number three, here's a miracle. It worked. They got away with it. The owners did not appear to object. Some commentators, the experts in such things, sometimes I like to say the experts, have speculated that perhaps the owners were in on the deal. That the Lord needs it was some sort of secret password or something. I don't know about that. Perhaps an angel had arranged the deal. Don't know. Or perhaps these folks were just followers of Jesus, and the Lord needs it was enough of a code word for them. Maybe I should try it. Anybody got a truck that I could have? I'd like a really nice F-150. The Lord needs it. Apparently it doesn't always work. At any rate, it worked in this time. It worked this time. And here's the point. Miracles can often be a matter of favor with people. The help we need from somebody at just the right time. Could be obedience. Could be provision. Could be favor. Sometimes it's all mixed up together. So if we're looking for miracles in our life, well, let's start with obedience, right? Let's look for God's provision. Let's consider the favor with people as part of God's miraculous provision. And if we look for things, these kinds of things, perhaps our eyes will be open more to the miraculous. God really working in us and through us and around us in our circumstances and such. They got away with it. You know, it occurs to me that it could be that they didn't object when they saw their donkey being heisted because the colt wasn't really worth all that much. I mean, seriously, why would anyone want a donkey anyways? Actually, was accosted by a dear one here who desperately wants a donkey, and apparently it's a point of contention in their marriage. And asking the question, why would anybody want a donkey, was somehow offensive. But seriously, why would anyone want a donkey? Donkeys are not good for eating. Can't eat a donkey. Donkeys aren't good for milking. And no, I haven't tried either, but I can just speculate. Donkeys aren't any good for shearing. You know, if you can't eat it or drink from it or wear it, what good is it? You know, I think donkeys are pretty much only good for one thing. Donkeys are good for carrying stuff. It's sort of like the Irish. It's okay, I'm Irish. Neri is a 100% Irish name. And I mean, just look at me. This was made for carrying stuff, not for royalty or great thoughts. I'm pretty sure that my ancestors came over during the potato famine because there were no more potatoes to carry or pick. So here they are. Yeah, donkeys are good for carrying stuff. Whether that cargo be stuff or a person. Now, like I said, I am a city kid, but I did learn as a kid that donkeys aren't always cooperative for riding. So, for example, you shouldn't try to ride a donkey while playing basketball. Has anybody ever seen this donkey basketball stuff? Anybody? Okay, I see a couple of shy hands. Has anyone played donkey basketball? Have you been? All right, we've got a participant in donkey basketball. As a kid, I watched my dad give it a go several times because donkey basketball is the sort of thing that volunteer firemen do as a fundraiser. It's especially the sort of thing that volunteer firemen do as a fundraiser when they're a little lubed up on Pabst Blue Ribbon and the like. I'm not suggesting that that's which is permissible, but I'm just reporting. So now this is not a PETA-sanctioned sport. But nevertheless, I recommend seeing it at least once because it is quite ridiculous. And it does demonstrate that even the most trained donkeys are not all that cooperative. They don't cooperate. Donkey basketball as we're looking for the next missions fundraiser. Could be donkey. Anybody willing to get on some donkeys with me? Okay, maybe we'll think of something better than that. Yeah, all right. Donkeys. The donkey referenced in this text, this colt, was not a trained donkey. It says it in plain words, never been ridden. Therefore, it really wasn't worth that much. I mean, who knows? The owners may have let it go just for the potential entertainment value alone. Right? I mean, a novice attempting to ride an untrained donkey could be just as ridiculous as donkey basketball, even without the Pabst Blue Ribbon. It's true. If it were me, I think I'd go ahead and let them give it a try, right? Okay, let me get this straight. Some lord wants to ride this donkey in a parade. Sounds great. Give it a go. I'd like to bring my wife and kids because this is going to be fun, right? Yet, and here's a fourth miracle, Jesus rode it. Could be the most miraculous aspect of this whole scene. It appeared that Jesus tamed that untrained beast with little or no effort. When he rode into Jerusalem that day, he was not only making extraordinary claims among men, he was demonstrating his power over all creation, every creature, all creation. A fourth miracle. Please note also that the disciples contributed as well. They had skin in the game. They received this offering from the donkey's owners, and they added their part, throwing their own cloaks on the donkey as sort of a makeshift saddle, I suppose. And then Jesus did the miracle, added the miracle. And I think that there's a bit of an outline here for us. This is an outline of how work with and for the Lord often happens. There are four ingredients, I think, that we can take a look at here that I just think are routinely part of God's work with us, God's work through us and for us. It often starts with assignment. Jesus asks us to do something for him. Some might call it calling. Sometimes Jesus asks us to do something that might not make 100% sense, may seem a little strange or even outlandish, but Jesus starts with an assignment, and oftentimes actually, that directive is from his word. And sometimes it's perhaps through others. Sometimes it's merely by an open door, a presentation of an opportunity. Sometimes opportunity enough is the assignment. And sometimes it is the voice of the Holy Spirit. It starts with assignment, and then there's provision. Someone helps, providing an important piece. Maybe even something that isn't as useful to them now as it would be if placed into the Lord's service. There is miraculous provision that accompanies the Lord's calling. Perhaps you've heard it said, where God guides, God provides. Provision. And then there's this matter of partnership. Disciples add their part and participate. They didn't just send Jesus on his way, they accompanied him at certain risk. Partnership. And then there's the miracle, the truly miraculous, the part that only God can do. Jesus adds the miraculous, and the plan is accomplished. Jesus called his disciples then to be part of the miraculous. And you know what? He calls us disciples too, folks like us, to be part of the miraculous. And perhaps this pattern can be a guide for us, because you know what? I want to be part of what God is doing. I want to be part of God's ongoing miraculous work, don't you? Yeah. So let's pick up the story here. This time I'm going to go ahead and just switch over to the perspective that we see in the Gospel of John. This is John 12. I'm going to pick up the same story with John 12, starting with verse 12. It says, the next day, the great crowd that had come for the festival, it would be Passover, heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem, and they took palm branches, and they went out to meet him, shouting, Hosanna. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel. Hosanna. So what's really going on here? You see, friends, this simple act of waving palms and crying Hosanna, this was perceived as both rebellion and blasphemy. Rebellion and blasphemy, an offense both to the government, rebellion, and an offense to the religious, blasphemy. So this whole idea of waving palms, that this was a specific sign reserved for a king. Waving palms and paving the roads with them, well, that was an act reserved for rulers, for kings, legitimate government authorized kings. And doing so for anyone else was a criminal act, an act of rebellion. That might seem foreign to us because we can go out on the streets and say anything we want, right? Protest, yes kings, no kings, we can say whatever we want, doesn't get us tossed into jail or anything, not in any particular danger, at least not in our country. It's not that way around the world, in every country and culture. But it certainly was the case here that that was an act of rebellion. I mean, think of it. When the government eventually crucified Jesus, I mean, the charge that they nailed above his head, which was true, but they meant it as sarcasm, was King of the Jews. Claiming kingship and hailing an illegitimate ruler as king was a high crime. It was rebellion. And then there was this matter of shouts of Hosanna. Hosanna, and blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna, save us, King, save us. Well, that was reserved for the Messiah. So shouting Hosanna at anyone not officially sanctioned by the religious ones as the rightful Messiah, that would be considered blasphemy. In the eyes of the government, the people were illegally hailing Jesus as some sort of king. And in the eyes of the religious, the people were dangerously hailing Jesus as God. It says in verse 14, Jesus found a young donkey and he sat on it, as it is written. And this is from the Old Testament, now quoted in the New Testament. Do not be afraid, daughter Zion. See, your king is coming, seated on a donkey's colt. It was a fulfillment of prophecy. You see, this whole business of the donkey heist was not merely a matter of transportation. I mean, Jesus could have picked his mode of transportation. Magic carpet, chariot of fire, Cybertruck. I mean, Jesus could have picked his mode of transportation. He could have just walked in because that's what he normally did. He'd entered Jerusalem in the past. We know that during this Holy Week, he stayed outside of the city, so he had walked in on every other day. But in this moment, he chose to ride in on a donkey. This was a fulfillment of prophecy. Now, his disciples apparently didn't see it at the time, but it appears that the Pharisees and the other religious leaders were seeing what was happening. They were getting it. And it shook them. It shook them up. We can keep reading. Verse 16, at first his disciples did not understand all this. Only after Jesus was glorified did they realize that these things had been written about him and that these things had been done to him. Now the crowd that was with him when he called Lazarus from the tomb, when Jesus had called Lazarus from the tomb and raised Lazarus from the dead, they continued to spread the word. And many people, because they had heard that he had performed this sign, went out to meet him. So the Pharisees said to one another, see, this is getting us nowhere. Look how the whole world has gone after him. Look how the whole world has gone after him. I mean, think of it. That's quite a statement, right? The whole world has gone after him. Now, was it true? Well, no, not then, no. I mean, there were a lot of people in Jerusalem that day. Some speculate close to 1 million. because of the Passover celebrations. It was Passover time. And so there were all these people that had made this pilgrimage to the city to worship at the temple. And many, possibly a majority of the folks that were there in town that day, had ventured into the streets to take part in this celebration, in this ruckus. But the whole world? Hardly not. That was an exaggeration. And even think of it, even those that got out on the streets and waved the palms and shouted, Hosanna, that day. I mean, were they going after him the way the Pharisees feared? I mean, think of it. There was little doubt that many who shouted Hosanna on that Sunday, when it came to Friday, yeah, they were going after him, but they were going after him in a whole different sort of way, in an opposite way. Because many of those that shouted Hosanna on that Sunday shouted crucify him on that Friday. So it wasn't precisely true then, but was it prophetic? Was it prophetic for a time like now? Has the whole world gone after him? Well, you could make a case that such a statement has a lot of truth in it. I mean, we mark our years according to Jesus. Our days might be named after the sun and the moon and the Greek gods that are represented by them, you know, the sun day and the moon day and Thor's day and such. But our years, we number our years according to Jesus. And in broad terms, you know, without being too awfully picky about the definition of what a Christian is, there are over 2.6 billion Christians alive today. 2.6 billion, around 1/3 of the population, far more than any other religion, far more. And from a Pharisee's perspective, you know, these that are saying, look how the whole world has gone after him, from that Jewish perspective, that should really impress. Just, you know, thinking about the numbers, today, like I said, 2.6 billion Christians, or about 16 million Jews. So for every 160 Christians, there's one Jewish believer, 160 times. So from a Pharisee's perspective, yeah, Christianity. They may have been right about their concern. They were unwittingly prophesying about a future that they could not or would not see. But, again, has the whole world gone after him? Well, not really, even according to those numbers. I mean, there's so much work to do. I mean, many have still not heard the gospel, responded to the gospel, had an adequate gospel presentation. I mean, 2.6 billion is great, but what about the other 6 billion that don't yet believe? So were they prophesying about a day like today? Or maybe they were prophesying about the future, our future, eternity. Because there will be final judgment when there is no doubt that what is now a matter of faith for Christians will be a matter of certainty for all. King Jesus will ultimately and completely rule and reign. Just as it's written in Philippians 2, where it says, at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and under the earth and on earth, and every tongue acknowledge, every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord to the glory of the Father. Every knee, every tongue. Jesus is Lord, King, to the glory of the Father. And for those who believe, that will be a great day. That will be a spectacular eternity. A day far greater than that day when Jesus rode into Jerusalem, or in any day, even a Palm Sunday like today. See, friends, because when Jesus rides into our hearts, eternity becomes a wonderful promise. A wonderful promise. But what of those around us? Can we invite them into this wonderful promise? Especially in this season when they might be, ripe to accept such an invitation. That's kind of the way the Easter season is. Do we dare? Do we dare invite them to come and see, to come and hear, to come and worship? because it could be dangerous. We could find ourselves vulnerable. Those who shouted Hosanna that day were putting themselves in harm's way. I mean, what kind of risk would we be taking to let others see us worshiping, to bring them in? I mean, they might get it all wrong. They may not come for the right reasons. They might misunderstand. Well, who doesn't? Invite them anyway. Invite them anyway. I mean, think of it. There was that first Palm Sunday when just about everyone had it wrong. There are all of these Palm Sundays when some still misunderstand. And then there will be that day in eternity when all doubt is erased. That first Palm Sunday was not only a fulfillment of prophecy, it was prophecy itself of a great day in eternity. You can hear the promise of eternity, because we get a little glimpse of eternity from John's vision in Revelation. This is Revelation 7. This is the vision given to John, and he said, after this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, from every tribe, every people and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. And they were wearing white robes, and they were holding palm branches in their hands, is the picture of heaven. And they cried out in a loud voice, "Salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb." Salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne and unto the... Would you like to say it with me? Say it with me. Salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb. I mean, this is a picture of heaven. So when we raise our palms and our praises to our King and our God, it's a prelude, it's prophecy of a promised eternity. This is a little bit of heaven. So again, I'll ask, do we have a part to play to increase that multitude, both for now and for eternity? And I want to remind us, in that first Palm Sunday, there was work for the disciples. They didn't do the miracle, but it appears that involving the disciples, involving the likes of us, does not diminish the miraculous. I think you can make the case that participation actually amplifies the miraculous. Like a loving father who invites his little ones along in the work, so does our God, and it amplifies the miraculous somehow. So we have opportunities for invitations, and opportunities for the Holy Spirit's power to work in and through us, to play a part in that great day, increasing those multitudes. We can invite people to come. Friends, we must invite people to come. We should take the risk. We can play a part. We can play a part in the whole world going after him. You see, what concerned the Pharisees that day was that people were believing in Jesus. People were believing in Jesus. So about around here, let me insert a question. So what? You know, I like to make sure that when I'm kind of wrapping up talks like this, I want to make sure that there's something relevant, that we give ourselves just at least one more moment to apply God's words to our lives. So what? Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday, this day when we mark the triumphal entry of Jesus into Jerusalem, begins Holy Week, and these are important days for believers. And like I said, a lot happened that week, including huge swings in popular opinion. There were massive crowds, like I said, perhaps close to 1 million. There was teaching and miracles and betrayal. There was foot washing in the Last Supper that Maundy Thursday. There was crucifixion that Good Friday, and there is resurrection Easter Sunday. And over the course of Holy Week, the huge crowds that shouted Hosanna, dwindled to just a mere few. So what happened to all those who believed in Jesus on that first Palm Sunday? I mean, on a day like today, I want us all to believe in Jesus. I want us to believe in Jesus. Actually, any day is a great day to believe in Jesus, but especially on a day like today, today is a day to believe in Jesus. And they believed in Jesus on that Palm Sunday. They believed in Jesus that he might lead a rebellion, or that he might perform more of those miracles, like raising Lazarus from the dead. They believed in Jesus, that he might continue to irritate those religious leaders who were opposing and oppressing the people. And who's not in favor of that? They believed in Jesus. But it doesn't appear that most believed Jesus. It doesn't appear that most believed Jesus. And there's a distinction there, right? Perhaps a critical distinction that separates the crowds from the few who were with him at the cross and found him risen 3 days later. I mean, I want us all to believe in Jesus, but I really want us to believe Jesus. You see, when we merely believe in Jesus, it can be just kind of knowing about Jesus with our heads, knowing about Jesus kind of from afar, rather than knowing Jesus with our hearts close, believing Jesus. When we're merely believing in Jesus, it could be a little bit more about what we want Jesus to be. Our expectations, more about that than who Jesus truly is. Believe Jesus. And when we're believing in Jesus, sometimes it could just be that we're hoping for favors. And like I said, I am all for the miraculous, and I want to be part of the miraculous. But it's more than that. We're not believing in Jesus merely for favors. We believe Jesus, and that demands obedience. When we believe Jesus, we'll hear and do his word. And we'll live expecting that he'll do the miracles then in us and through us, around us and for us and such. Believe Jesus. So today, friends, on this Palm Sunday, let's purpose to believe Jesus. Let's believe Jesus. Do you believe today? I believe. More than merely a popular figure or one we hope might do us some favor, do we believe Jesus? And I just want to tell you, today is a day to believe Jesus, to fully believe him, to fully place our trust in him, to not only wave our palms in celebration, but to humbly commit our faith and trust, our lives to him. So I want you to know, friend, today can be your day to believe Jesus. If you know anything about Arlington Assembly at all, you know that there's just always going to be an opportunity to believe Jesus, especially for a first time, or perhaps to recommit, to come back to him after a long time. Today is a day to believe Jesus. Today can be your day. This can be a moment of transformation, moving from one who merely spectates, one who merely watches Jesus go by, but rather today can be the day when Jesus rides right into your heart. So friend, believe Jesus today. And for a moment, why don't we just close our eyes, bow our heads, take a moment that's perhaps a bit more contemplative, even a moment that's a little bit private, so that you can consider this. And I want to ask you, is today your day to believe? Is today your day to come to faith? Is today your day to find forgiveness of sin and salvation from Jesus? And if today is your day, I just ask you to take a little step. Would you just raise a hand? Because I want to pray with you. You're not raising a hand to me or for me, but just an acknowledgement, just a bit of action. Is there anybody here today